This time on Ask Rad Rat, we talk a little bit about me and my hobbies and stuff like that, and we're also going to talk about whether a skating switch is a waste of time. Welcome back to Rad Rat Video. Here on this channel you can learn new things about skateboarding. I talk about all kinds of different topics, a lot of them submitted by you guys through the website radratvideo.com. I got a few questions set up for you today. The first one I got was about why I was wearing fake glasses, and upgrading my camera last time I guess was enough for people to catch me. When I set up this studio down in the basement, I have this super bright ring light around my camera right here, and then I got another super bright video light right over there. If I wear my real glasses, which are out of my reach right now, I think I can't really see, they're bright green, just huge, like blinding reflections. It looks terrible. I filmed one video that way, and I started wearing, I had some old broken glasses where one of the lenses fell out, popped out the second one too, just started wearing them, because I think I look weird without glasses. Wearing glasses since I was a really little kid. If you ever see me anywhere, I'm always wearing glasses. So it feels a little weird to do it without, but for the sake of it looking okay, I kind of have to. So that was my solution for a while, but I guess I'm busted. So I'm gonna try this from now on. We'll see how it goes. All right, the first question, actual submitted question, is from Dolphin Dude, and he says, do you have hobbies outside of skateboarding, and what were you interested in before skateboarding? So I haven't changed, so anything I was into as a little kid, I still do now. I'm into playing games. I've got an Xbox One that I play all the time. I've got the Game Pass, and I just download stuff from there, mess around with it, play online with friends. I'm not into like competitive online stuff. I just like to do co-op adventure stuff. A lot of single player games, stuff like that. There's another question about gaming, so I won't get too into detail on that. But one of the other things that I've been into my whole life is art and just drawing and stuff. I remember I did a video on this channel where I was talking about if you have to have a no skateboarding allowed sign, and if that would, if someone gets hurt there, like what the legal aspects of it are and all that. And I had to draw a bunch of pictures for that, which I had a lot of fun doing. But I do try to draw from time to time. I do like just sketches. I don't really make finished pieces of any kind. I used to do some painting, and I have some finished paintings hanging around my house that I like, but I don't know, for me, I just like to get stuff out. I'll just draw something and move on. I don't want to spend a whole day making a final work of art, you know. I just kind of mess around with it. Draw comic strips and stuff like that too. I've been drawing comics since I was a very little kid. I've got stuff, I don't think I brought any of it when I moved out of my parents' house, but they've got stuff over there still that's, you know, mid 90s that I was drawing with friends. We had our own, like every character, we had like different families in our character world, and all of our comics would be from the perspective of our one character. And then like our Sunday strips would be like we would all get together, all of our characters would, and it'd be like, you know, super soaker fights and whatever, stuff like that. And I would try to draw them out to look like an official Sunday comic, the right size. I'd color it in with crayons. And I still draw comics. Now it's just kind of quick sketch stuff. But yeah, that's what I do outside of skateboarding when I get the chance. Oh, and I love to read too. I read tons. So those are my hobbies, not counting TV because that's a freebie. Next question is from Adam. He says, I know this doesn't really fit the theme of your channel, but I was curious what some of your other favorite video games are that aren't skateboard related. So when I was a kid, I had a Nintendo and a Sega Genesis, which they were both old at the time. This was like, I don't know, 92, 93. I had these. I guess the Sega Genesis was still up to date, but the Super Nintendo would come out. Anyway, I didn't know any of that stuff. I was a little kid. I was 5 years old in 93. So, you know, I'd be playing Super Mario and playing Sonic at the same time and not realizing that there's a difference in their different generation. Like, I didn't care about any of that stuff. But the first system that I got, where I was old enough to save up money and buy stuff for, was a PlayStation. First ever game I bought was Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on the Genesis, but PlayStation was where most of my nostalgia comes from. So a lot of my favorite stuff is just looking back on things I had as a kid. So Crash Bandicoot series, the Final Fantasy games, Metal Gear Solid, the first three of them, I guess. Lots of other stuff from that era. Spider-Man, Ape Escape, And then some of the newer stuff, like the Splinter Cell games, I know those aren't brand new, but the newest, the Tomb Raider trilogy that is relatively recent, I really like that. Lots of stuff. I like to play a lot of single player stuff. So yeah, but my favorites, like the stuff that I have to have on a shelf, is old PlayStation stuff. That's just kind of, that's how it is for me. So like, that was the focus of the channel when it got to the skateboarding things. I was playing like Grind Session and Thrasher and Tony Hawk 1, 2, and well, there's 3 and 4. 3 is really good, but 4 is garbage. But it was all like PlayStation stuff. So it was stuff that I couldn't buy all of as a kid. I could buy a game every now and then, you know? So yeah, the PlayStation has a dear spot in my heart, and I still play it a lot, even though it's so old now. But I'm old too, so whatever. Next question is from Justin. And he says, I know this is kind of long and barely a question, but I'd love to hear your thoughts and possible counter arguments, so here goes. I'm done skating Switch. After skating for many years, I've come to the conclusion that it is pointless. Let's think of a hypothetical. Let's say I practice Switch a lot. I think Switch is cool, so I practice it every day. After all, Switch is harder, so anything done Switch gets bonus points for being more difficult. But let's say I practice Switch so much that I become just as good as Switch as normal. Is it still Switch? I'm able to do all the same tricks in both stances and feel equally comfortable in both, so which stance gets bonus points? Does my former Switch? Do both stances? Do neither? Also, how much better could I have been if I focused on one stance? Have I effectively halved my skating ability to be ambidextrous? Let's take this even further. Let's say I'm better at my Switch than in my original stance. Is it still Switch? Have I just changed stances, and does my original stance now get the bonus points? Was all that effort wasted? Once again, how much better could I have been if I just focused on one stance? I know this is the logical extreme, but it makes Switch feel pointless. I still like Fakie and Nollie because those look and feel way different, but not Switch. Yeah, I talked about this on a very old Ask RadRad, and people didn't really like my opinion of it, but it's been so long that I can probably talk about it again. And the way I feel about it, I told a story in the beginning. Let's say you go to your friend's house and he shows you this painting he did on the wall, and it's pretty good. Like, you know, it didn't blow you away. It's not some amazing masterpiece, but it's pretty good. He goes, guess what? Painted that left-handed. You'd be like, oh, okay. I mean, like, it's more impressive, but it doesn't make the painting any better. And that's kind of what you're talking about as far as focusing on one stance. If you put 100% of your skateboard effort into doing your normal stance, what kind of crazy tricks would you be able to do? Versus like, you know, I can do a switch crooked grind. Well, what if I was skating normal? Maybe I could have done a kickflip crooked grind, you know? That type of stuff. Like, how much further could you get in your normal stance? And I mostly still agree with that. I had a bunch of responses back to that, people who feel much differently and people who would argue that Switch is really important and like Switch is the best thing in the world. And I kind of thought about it a little bit, and I've come to a slightly more balanced perspective, I think, but I still mostly don't like Switch. I think it's cool in a line where it has to be. So like doing a normal position stance, normal stance, like a big spin or a big spin flip and landing fakie, that happens a lot in lines now. You do a quick big spin flip and then a switch flip afterward, or switch heel flip or something like that. And I think that's really cool because like you are putting yourself in a position where you have to do something switch because you landed and there's something else coming up real quick. You could do something fakie, I guess, but like fakie's harder in a lot of ways. So like, I think it could be really cool for lines. You can have a lot more options for the flow of how a line would work. You know, like if you want to do a tail slide, like a back tail slide to fakie, well, you don't just want to turn around. You don't want to do the thing where you like push and switch stances. I mean, you can't because then your board would be backwards. So you have to like push, switch stances, do a shove it, and then you're back in your normal stance. Like it's cool to have some switch stuff, especially for lines. Now, if it's like a kickflip down some stairs and it happens to be switch, I'm not as interested in that because it's not a flow thing. It's just like, I wanted it to be harder. It looks a little bit more awkward because it's my wrong stance. And you should be more impressed by it. Yeah, but like the way we consume skateboarding now isn't mostly in like parts. You know, you're watching something on Instagram or something like that. You might not even know who the person is. You know, if you're on your Explore tab or you follow the accounts that just repost stuff all the time. This might be the only time you've ever seen this guy do a trick before. You don't know what stance he's in. You can tell a lot of the time. So with the line stuff, it's obvious. You do like a front feeble, you whip it around to fakie, and then there's like a switch inward heel flip. You're like, oh, cool. But if it's just single tricks, it's less impressive to me and it's less interesting. But it does give you a lot more options. So there's this line, I think it was Mike Moe, and I did a video recently about the best lines in skateboarding. And when you look it up online, a lot of people will talk about this line that he does. And he does something down some stairs in the beginning and at the end, but in the middle, he does a tray flip, nollie tray flip, fakie tray flip, switch tray flip. And they all look perfect. And people are so blown away at this line that he can do every stance version of it perfectly and catch it in a line, you know? And it's like, that's cool on paper, but how much more interesting could it have been? You know, if you wanted to do a creative line, maybe do a trick where you spin and then spin back with the second trick to try to, like, I don't know, like there's stuff you could do that would be more interesting. There was just a lot of dead space between these two stair sets, by the way. I'm going to try to find it, but I might not be able to. And like you could have done anything in that time, but just showing that you can do one trick perfectly in 4 stances is not that interesting. To me, anyway. Some people would disagree, but I think that's why skateboarding is an art, because I can have the opinion I do, you can have the opinion you do, other people can think we're 100% wrong, and yet we're all right. So like, if that was the line Mike Moe came up with, no one else might have done that. Maybe someone else would have done a line I liked more, but it would have been less impressive to other people, and that's fine. If you want to be the artist who can paint 2 pictures at the same time with each hand, cool. You know, like it's, you know, thinking about that, there's all those art demos, you know, like on TV or something where they'll paint something that doesn't look like anything, then they flip it over at the end and it's just surprise. Like they could have painted better upright, I'm sure, but like there's something to be said for that. It's still an art. It's still a different way to do things. It still mixes things up. It still brings something new to the table. And I think with a lot of people out there doing switch stuff, you can come up with different combos and you can do tricks that can't be done if you can only focus on your main stance. So like there's a bunch of different grind variations and things that help a lot for being able to skate switch. Like if you spin into it, you know, like you roll up, spin front side, do like a front feeble or something like that, then you're doing a switch feeble, you know, and there's names for all this stuff, but we won't get into that. You're doing a switch feeble now. If you never skate switch before, that trick might not be open to you. And what if you're going to try to kickflip out of it? You got to have some switch skill to be able to open up as many possibilities as you can. But it's up to any individual person how much they want to focus on that versus how much on specific tricks. And I think it kind of goes back to mid-2000s or mid-90s to 2000s where it was mostly about just doing a trick clean at a spot. So like you can do a kickflip down some stairs, you can do a 360 flip, you can do a frontside flip. What's next? Those were like the cool tricks. You're not going to do a double kickflip, obviously. That's an ugly, horrible trick. You're never going to do that. Well, there's switch. You can do all that same stuff, switch, and build up, you know, the difficulty level of those tricks. And that's cool if that's how you want to skate. But yeah, with now things are getting more and more tech. If you want to focus on your main stance only and do nothing but your normal stance 100% of the time, I think that's cool. I think it's great. I'd be happy to watch it all the time. But yeah, I like to watch all kinds of things. Me personally, I don't skate much switch at this point. I can do a few tricks, but I don't do much either. So that's my thoughts on that. Feel free to argue in the comments. I know you've been dying to if you haven't started typing yet, and that's fine. I think everyone's opinion is valid when talking about an art like skateboarding, so let's all discuss that below. But if you have any more questions for a future video, go to radratvideo.com and type it into the form that's on the homepage there. And after that, you can make sure you subscribe by hitting my logo right here in the middle of the screen so you don't miss out on anything. Check out some more videos on the channel while you're waiting for your question to be answered. Thank you for watching.